Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fleet's Catch-Up Ramblings. Hello, hello, anyone hear me? Okay, well, apparently yes. Yes, they can hear me. Hope everyone can in fact hear me. Oh dear, yeah, apparently my... Hang on a minute, has it done its thing again? Has it done its thing again? Let's have a look. Yes. Yes, it has. It absolutely did. No wonder I couldn't be heard. My volume input level just dropped off a cliff. It keeps doing this from every now and then, and I don't know why. If I ever figure out why this automatic setting keeps coming back again and again and again and again, I'll make it so it never does it again. But yeah, busy week this week. Really, really busy. I'd say I was rushed off my feet, but that's not quite right. Hello, Team Muramal, nice to see you. But yeah, busy week. Lots and lots to do. Obviously, next week is the big one. I'll be dropping down to Cornwall to see Dr. Clark. So there'll be nothing, there'll be no content recorded or streamed on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And there also won't be game night on Saturday because I won't be there. Unfortunately. Because, you know, I'll be in Cornwall. Can't hear anything. Leave and rejoin the Discord call. Leave and rejoin Theatre at Sea. That is the best way to do it. If you can't hear anything, leave and rejoin... Oh, they can't hear me. Wait.
Send them a message in the chat.
Yeah.
Anything you can think of.
Yeah, that'll fix it. Probably. Hopefully. And if it doesn't, well, I don't know. But, without further ado, I think we're actually on to... This week we've actually got... What's the word? We're just on the document today because we actually managed to catch up with all of the questions that were just standing in Discord solo. So we're actually caught up, which is good. It's 1881 we need to plow through now, I think. Yes, 80 and 81. Shouldn't take too long. We did that one, right, so, thank you all for being here. Let's get cracking. So, first question is Is a Discord question. What if the US Army had a brigade force structure like today's Army structure by the 1980s instead of a division force structure like IRL? What would that change in the war planning, especially in the defense of West Germany? You really want to be conducting actions at divisional scale in that environment.
Yeah, that actively weakens the American force.
Yeah, you want divisional scale structure. That's just the level of depth you need to fight that sort of war.
Because for counterinsurgency, you can get away with brigade strength.
There's a reason why NATO is forming composite divisions right now, in anticipation of peer-on-peer conflict.
Well, to a degree, but that's also partly driven by the fact that Europe can't really raise divisions currently.
No, composite divs. That's what I mean. So they're bringing together various brigades into divisions, but they're NATO divisions, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but they're trading to fight.
NATO.
I know. Individual countries can't form divisions. There's only a few that can.
Cough, cough, the UK still.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why there's a reason why a lot of the divisional strength formations you're seeing in the Baltic states now are UK-led. But we're getting a little bit into the post-1991 era. But the reason we're doing it is to highlight why, in the pre-1991 era, brigade combat structure doesn't work.
The easiest way to think about it would be that brigade structures only work in peacetime conditions.
Yeah, if you think there's going to be a war, or you think there's going to be a high threat environment that is going to be peer on peer, large open field engagements or large engagements generally, you need to be divisional, no matter where you are in the world, basically. Another Discord question. Do you think the ability of early variants of the County Class DD with the twin 4.5-inch gun and super firing mounts was reduced by the super firing mounts, since they could install a missile launcher on the second upper gun mount like in later batches? No, it was just a representation of what was available at the time. When the first batch of counties was procured, there was no plug-and-play missile like Exocet that existed. When the second batch was around, there was. And the choice to sacrifice a single 4.5 mount for an Exocet launcher was a really easy choice to make. Because it gave the county, it gave the batch 2 counties reach out and touch capability that wasn't Sea Slug. And Sea Slug politely doesn't have the same reach out and touch capability that even the 4.5s have or the Exocet has. Not in an anti-shipping role. Next question. Oh, sorry, Dragon. Were you going to say something, or did you?
I was going to say that also remember the county class having 2 guns partly comes from them initially being based off the 5-inch gun destroyer / cruiser design.
But then they dropped to 2 twin 4.5 as would be easy to procure, and it did. And because they used above deck mounts for the 4.5s, it meant that when it came to designing a second batch, they just go, "Oh, how are we going to change the mount?" Oh, it's really easy actually. We just remove the mount from the deck and put something else there instead, because it's all above deck. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Just a month after the Treaty of Versailles in force and World War I is over, Germany falls to a socialist revolution. Would the Entente attempt to go to war with Germany again right after their governments declare that the war is over? How would that affect the Russian Civil War as well as the various side conflicts of it, such as the Polish-Soviet War? And would it have any impact on the Hungarian Communist Revolution of 1919? The Entente doesn't have the will or the incentive to go after a socialist Germany. Because bear in mind, for that socialist revolution to occur, you're talking about at least 2 years of horrific civil conflict. Germany will be gutting itself while that revolution takes place. Almost.
Civil War on the level of a Soviet Civil War.
Yeah, it'll do more damage to itself than arguably Versailles actually did. the loss in infrastructure, materiel, and manpower will be brutal. The French will be sat there clapping their hands for joy, and the French will probably move in to secure key assets like the Rhineland, because they'll be under no illusions that a socialist government will say we're not party to the previous treaties, blah blah blah. But the British will sit there and go, oh, for the love of God. I will point out, though, this wouldn't be the entirety of Germany. You better believe the Prussian aristocracy in East Prussia are going to go, no, none of this nonsense. Which would lead to the interesting circumstance of there being a rump Prussian or German state in East Prussia, Poland,
Well,
a
there's a good chance
socialist.
that gets eaten by the Poles.
It's possible the Poles could see them as a useful patsy. Especially if they join. It's highly likely.
Poland has claims on East Prussia, and Poland at this point is very intense with enforcing its claims, shall we say?
Problem you've got is if they do that, they'll be It's not at first. I don't think they'll do it at first. They will. What will probably happen is it won't be a hard annexation. So what they'll do is the Prussians will join the socialist Germans will probably try to help the Russians crush the Poles. The Poles will appeal to the Entente. The Entente will send aid. The Prussian rump state will join with the Poles, because if the Poles go, then they're next. There will probably be some form of miracle in the West as well. Poland and the Prussian state will probably survive, and you'll see a closening of ties between the two nations until there's sort of a soft annexation, as it were, if that makes sense. The Prussians will gradually be folded into...
Yes. Right, the
Both
Polish
Prussia and Poles are
claim...
proud.
Yeah, the Prussian claim is partly the German claim, and the Polish claim is from the Commonwealth era.
Yeah.
And the Polish claim from the era rejects Prussia's right to exist. Which the Poles aren't going to let.
You know, there's a thing. The Poles are going to need. The Poles are going to need a significant force because they're going to have to fight together during the early wars. The Poles can't spare the troops to crush East Prussia without basically guaranteeing their death. And at that point, there will be a battle-hardened core of Prussian. There will be some form of Prussian army, even if it's a small one, that will have fought alongside the Poles. There will be some form of reconciliation. There will still be grumblings on both sides, but I believe that with communism on one side and communism on the other side, both of whom want to kill both those states, panicked circumstances make for strange bedfellows, shall we just say.
Actually, just thinking about it, you're looking at, if we're talking about the 1990 revolution, you talk about sort of the Spartacus stuff.
Yeah. And the horrific thing you also got then is
The Spartacus lot hate the Bolsheviks, and the Bolsheviks hate the Spartacus lot.
No, I'm aware, but
I'm just thinking it's going to be a funny case of left-wing infighting.
oh no, it is absolutely.
You're not going to get
no, I know.
Front.
Oh no, I know. But the problem is, for the people in the middle, they're still under attack from both sides at first. They may not be in agreement with each other, but the Nazis and the Russians worked together to crush, the Polish state.
Yeah, but
it's one of those things where
a revanche is Poland, East Prussia that they claim as Poland. That, honestly, strangely, I don't even think East Prussia, like a Prussian state, would survive.
I think, actually, I've been thinking about this the wrong way. I think you're right, because I've actually been thinking about it the wrong way. There will be no time for East Prussia to form. If Germany collapses into civil war, the Poles will just march in before there's any form of transition of government and everything else. You might see some form of Prussian identity remain within Poland. That's going to be hard to quash. But it will be Polish, if that makes sense. You know how it was with Danzig? Like, there was a constant rumbling throughout the entire existence of the interwar Polish state?
Yeah, not really, though. That specifically comes up because the rise of the Nazi Party and the pan-nationalist movements in Germany. And yeah, if you don't have that, then it's quite possible you don't have.
There's also a possible balkanization of Germany as well. Like, the Kingdom of Bavaria might just try and pull away completely. I'm aware there was the Bavarian Socialist Republic, but it was quickly crushed by forces loyal to the Bavarian Kingdom, as it was then. I mean, the French are going to be jumping for joy at Germany self-immolating.
They're not. They're really, really not.
I mean, they're going to be moving in to take the Rhineland because, well, independent Rhineland under French protection is the best of everything for everybody, right, guys? Right, guys?
No, the French are going to be shitting bricks. Because what happened last time Germany had a revolution?
You mean the revolution of 1848?
What happened in the aftermath of that?
Well, there nearly was a Prussian kingdom. So, not Prussian kingdom, sorry. There nearly was a German kingdom. A United Kingdom of Germany. But, that was, you know...
But the German Empire would come out of that. And the German Empire, before it was the German Empire and the kingdom under Prussia, would turn around and deck France back to the Stone Age.
Well, it's a different circumstance this time. The revolutions of 1848 were without too much strife. In most cases. Yes, they were the rumblings, but countries didn't collapse into civil war. And... apart from Austria, but, well, that was Austria being Austria. But this one will be a long-running, possibly 2 to 3 year civil war. Which will rattle on basically until... if the communists win, it'll rattle on like that. I don't think the Hungarian Communist Revolution will change anything. I think it will still fail, because remember, the Hungarian Communist Revolution is put down by the Hungarians. Yeah, they just do it by themselves. They're like, no communism here. Go away.
Specifically, it's the failure of collectivization.
Yeah. And then, Horthy...
Horthy's gonna be Horthy.
Yeah. I mean, Horthy rocks up with no navy, is like, you see this? I am the captain now. Just takes over the ship of state. Like, I can't have a battleship. I'll have a ship of state. Poor Horthy. All he wanted was another chance to take a Tegatov out to sea. He never got it. Poor Horthy.
Don't ask him what his plans were or what he did to the Slovaks.
We don't talk about that. Horthy did horrible things to the Slovaks. But yeah, hi James!
Hey!
But yeah, fundamentally, it's... beyond the basic timeline we stated, basically the immediate aftermath of, 1919, 1920, we can't really go much further than that. You've rewritten the tapestry of the world at that point, in a fundamental way. Right, another Discord question. Do you think the US Mach 42 and Mach 45 5-inch 54 guns are miles better than the twin 4.5-inch mount like on the counties? Different guns for different purposes, in a weird way. The 5-inch 54s are the US basically tunnel visioning on the single-barreled autoloader as what's going to take their gunfire or their gun solutions forwards. The British take a little bit longer to get there, and we do come to the same conclusion, but we do stick with that above-deck twin 4.5 mount for a little bit longer because it's a more mature mount to us, and it does what we need it to do. And also, we kind of don't have the same experience that the US does of, oh my god, that's a guided missile coming straight at us. Oh my god, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it. Not to the same extent.
But the British take the lesson of a guided missile is going to need a attacking high altitude aircraft. We just shoot down high altitude aircraft.
Yeah, whereas the US just go, stop the missile, shoot, 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 shoot. I don't care what launches it, just for God's sake. Ah! Scared US missile noises. Oh dear. Yet night, no one no one's saying the 4.5 was a bad gun. No one has said that. It's just different procurement options.
4.5 performed excellently.
Yeah, just different procurement options from two different navies.
For causes.
Like, if you want to look at when Britain does look at the 5-inch gun, look at the 5-inch 70 caliber that Britain was working on with Vickers. Because that's when they went, fine, you want a 5-inch? We'll give you a 5-inch. It fires so fast that we have to put a limiter on because we keep melting the barrels.
And of course, you do also have the whole thing of they do go for the single autoloading gun as well, with the single 4.5 mount that we have today on RN ships.
Because with that, when Britain was looking at the 5-inch, they actually went with twin autoloaders because twin barrels more effective in that regard.
Yeah. You got a thought on this, James?
Not really.
Fair enough. Right, next question. Do you think if the Tiger class had a refit with the installation of a Sea Slug launcher and magazine, do you think the RN would redesignate them as CLG, like the Galveston or Providence class CLGs? Do you think the refitted Tigers are a better design and better armed than the two US CLG classes? No. For the last part of the question, no and no. You can't compare a Tiger armed with Sea Slug to a Galveston that's gonna rock up and say, hi, yes, I have a telegraph pole for you. Die. Yeah, Talos is hysterically terrifying. Ridiculously so. And that's if it's conventionally armed. God help you if it's got a nuclear warhead on it.
To be fair, though, it actually would be better than slapping a big, massive flight deck on the arse end of a Tiger.
I disagree.
She'll keep the good lines that she has.
I mean, in terms of lines, I could agree. But in terms of operational capability, the ability to operate the amount of helicopters they gained the ability to operate was,
Yeah, but at that point, why are you converting a cruiser like this to do that?
Because there were no other platforms that could be converted to do a similar role within the Royal Navy.
Yeah.
It worked.
What limited function? They did gain some capability, but they lost what limited functionality they had in other regards.
I mean, the counties had taken their role as the Royal Navy's frontline cruisers. And were arguably better at the job.
Technically speaking, they weren't cruisers, if we're talking about the Sea Slug destroyers.
Yeah. Technically. But that technically that technically is carrying a lot of weight.
I wouldn't even say that technically is carrying weight. I would just say they're just not cruisers.
I mean, in theory, the original design for a county was to be a cruiser designed around the Sea Slug missile system, but obviously budgetary issues then put them to destroyers. So I can kind of see where fleet's coming from, but in retrospect, they are still just very large destroyers.
They are, but I think when you get into the era that we're talking about, they can do the same role that the Tigers filled. They're not cruisers, but they can do the same role, and they do have things that the Tigers don't have, so Sea Slug, etc. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the ability to operate 4 Westland Wessexes or Sea Kings to just go and absolutely clear an area of submarines, that's a nice thing to have for a Royal Navy task group. And you still got a pair of 6-inch guns forward.
But then you got the issue of why are you using a cruiser as a platform to do ASW work, when in reality you have a frigate, say for instance a Leander that can take a single helicopter, has much better capabilities for anti-submarine warfare. I mean, granted, yes, soon enough they're going to build the Invincible class through-deck cruisers, anti-submarine warfare aircraft carriers, but for the time it's a stupid idea. And it's still stupid up to the point where you get to the Falklands War. They might as well just
It's-
kept the 6-inch gun down aft.
It's not, when you think of them not as submarine hunting assets alone, but as the center of a task group. If you group them with like a trio of Leanders, suddenly you've got a very, very nice ASW task group.
But
That-
still, there's the case in the point. Why would you put a cruiser in the center of a task group with 3 Leanders to go ASWing? It's stupid.
I mean,
That's why you'd have some, say for instance, I don't know, a destroyer in the center of it, not a however many ton cruiser that the Tiger is.
well, the destroyers can't, well, the destroyer can't loft 4 large incapable helos in the same way that the Tiger can. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the little sea sprites, the little wasps that the Anders carry are not really up to snuff, if we're being completely honest here. They're acceptable.
But when the link starts to come into place, it's much better.
Oh, yes, absolutely, and that's very true. But for the majority of the time that the Tigers are filling this role, it's still wasps. And at that point, I think my argument does start to gain a lot more weight. Because you can have the wasps for prosecute and attack, which doesn't really strain their fuel reserves. But, sorry, you got the wasps for prosecution and attack. And you've got the 4 Sea Kings for search and acquire. Because the Sea Kings can stay up for a decent length of time, carry a lot of Sonoboys. I think that's the core of the concept. The Leanders and their wasps are the prosecute and attack. And the Tiger at the center of the task force will be acquiring and managing that. I think that's where it all comes together. I think it's the British trying to work around, all of that. Was it a perfect solution? No, not really. Could have been better. They could have built a ship to do the same thing. But hey ho. Cold War Britain be doing what Cold War Britain be doing. Yeah, the Tiger class would have been better cruisers if they'd have been bigger, but it was post-war Britain night. They were never going to be. We have no money and we must scream. Next question.
No. Wait. You think you have no money, but you must screen.
Ah, hey, funny. She's a funny girl. What if the Spanish Armada invasion had succeeded in getting a Spanish army into England and succeeded in restoring Roman Catholicism in Britain? That's... Wow, you don't ask much, do you? That is not really a period of history I'm very familiar with. I obviously know about the Armada and all of that, but in regards to politics beyond that point in the period under discussion, I am not exactly familiar with what the outcome would be. If you forcefully restored Roman Catholicism, it's going to be a hostile country. First and
Welcome
foremost.
to Dutch Revolt 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Pretty much, yeah.
Except this time you're trying to hold an island that hates you instead of a better mainland Europe that hates you.
And I mean, the Spanish had already tried this once already, under Queen Mary. And look how well that went. The country barely held itself together.
Yep. Because at this point, England is firmly Protestant. And
Yeah.
it's fighting over what version of Protestantism will be triumphant.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. Do you think the RIM-7F and the RIM-7M aren't capable missiles for the 1980s as a point defense system?
Rim 7 left?
NIF Sea Sparrow. Unlike the Sea Wolf or the Sea Slug, which are probably better at the role of close and medium range defense. So you've asked me if a missile isn't a good point defense missile, and you're comparing it against missiles that are not point defense missiles in the same question. Well, first of all, Rim 7 Sea Sparrow kicks Sea Slug to the curb, and does so aggressively. It's a better missile in pretty much every respect.
To be honest, if you farted a missile, it's actually better than Sea Slug. Sea Slug's dreadful.
It's not as bad as it's sometimes made out to be, but it's a missile of its time, shall we say?
Yeah.
Sea Sparrow.
First generation service to airs are not great in terms of the UK.
Sea Sparrow Rim 7 has 15 years development time on Sea Slug. It's a little bit shorter range, but it's just better. In terms of Sea Wolf, it's not well, Sea Wolf is the direct British comparison to Sea Sparrow.
Ooh.
And I think Sea Wolf versus Sea Sparrow, it's basically horses for courses. One's the British system, one's the US system, basically.
Sea Dodders makes a very good point, though.
Yeah.
As early Sea Sparrow was manually guided.
It was.
But Sea Wolf wasn't, because it had a tracking radar system.
True, but remember...
Either had 9912 or a 911. Depending on which version you go for.
That's an unfortunate name.
Although I would point out the specific
No.
Sea Sparrows we're talking about are the ones that are not manually guided. We're talking about 7F and 7M. So, later Sea Sparrow. Which, as a platform, is perfectly acceptable. What would not last night? You have to give context. What would not last? You have to bear in mind that I don't have the context because I've no idea when you post that. You need to write every post with context. You can't just write something into a response to something I've just said, because by the time I see it, we've moved on and I've no idea what it's in reference to. And also, the stream is a little bit behind where we are, just as a concept. So, just need to bear that in mind.
Are you on latency 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another Discord question. Churchill's Anglo-French United Kingdom. Well, it's the Anglo-French Union, it's not the United Kingdom. One of the whole things behind the Union is that there's this quasi-separation.
That one was meant for Dr. Clark.
Oh, right.
And because it refers to a specific proposal.
Yeah, so we'll put that down as Clark needed. Discord question. Do you think the IJN Scout or light cruisers like Tenryu, Kuma, and Nagara classes are already outdated by World War II, other than their conversion or role as torpedo launcher ships? Outdated just like the Omaha class of World War II? Not really. They're no more outdated than the E's are for the Royal Navy. The problem is they're basically filling in...
I'd say them also.
They're filling in...
What's that, Greg?
They're filling...
I'd say they're more outdated than the E's.
Not really.
They've got a worse main battery layout.
No.
Yes. Have you seen their main battery layout?
They've got a pair of wing mounts forward, but apart from that, they're all right.
And also
One's
one
got two mounts
gun of
facing
they've got
aft.
yeah, but they've got. If it's the one I'm thinking of, they've also got one gun forward. They've got in the two forward gun mounts. They've got one facing forward, one facing aft.
Yeah, that was
On
to.
that forward part, it's not great. At least one of the E's got a twin turret.
Well, the whole
Well,
reason
it's
that
just
was
a
done
spare.
was to save weight because they were deck mounts, and to save space.
No.
It's there's nothing wrong with the way the Kuma's guns are arranged. Nothing at all.
They are all basically in most roles.
It
They are
worked.
woefully
Right.
outdated.
From that, they wasn't bad for their time. When you're looking at modernizing them, it very much is. So I think he's trying to say.
I mean, I understand that point. What I will say is that are they less efficient than more modern cruisers? Well, yeah, obviously. But their role as the frontline cruiser assets has been taken over solely by the 8-inch cruisers. The Japanese Navy just has gone all in on the 8-inch cruiser, and that's the way it is. If they can build a certain number of cruisers, then why would they build light cruisers?
Whole thing, the fact that they just ignored light cruisers was a total doctrinal failure in itself, in my opinion. But
No, not really. If you can
Yeah.
only build...
yes,
No. Why build a light cruiser when you can build a heavy cruiser instead?
rate of
Cost.
fire advantage, cost, mass production capability. It's usually much easier to produce a light cruiser than a heavy.
Not in the way you're you're thinking.
Yes.
You're thinking with 2020 hindsight. If we're talking
No,
about
I'm-
no, you really are.
No,
No one
I'm-
apart from the British and the French really built 6-inch cruisers prior to First London. No one. The US didn't. Japanese
the
didn't.
Omaha,
Omaha's.
the Omahas.
Those were pre-treaty designs, part of the scouting fleet doctrine.
No, to quote, no one built light cruisers pre-First London.
During the
cruisers
treaty
pre-London.
period, as treaty cruisers, you know exactly what I meant. Don't nitpick for the sake of scoring a point.
Actually, no, I didn't. But no, I'm not trying to score a point. Also, if you want to point out that, you've then got the Guisiano class cruisers of the Italian Navy, which are 6-inch cruisers. Like, then after that, you've got the Condottieri class
Well, those
in
are
their various forms.
the Condottieris are a little bit
Cardona,
different. They're more
in
quasi.
in terms of the Guisano, the Cardone, and the Montecuccolo, Duca d'Aosta, and finally the Duca delle Abruzzi class.
They're
Final
more
iteration.
quasi destroyer leaders than full-on light cruisers.
What?
The more
What?
akin to something like the Agano class than full-on light cruisers.
I would give you that for maybe the Guisiano class, but not stuff like Montecuccolo and later.
Yeah, they do start to become more cruisery the further on you go. But the point I'm trying to make is, if the Japanese have a certain number of slips and a certain amount of capacity to build cruisers, why on earth would they build weaker cruisers?
But light cruisers aren't weaker.
In the period prior to the developments of things like the more rapid-firing 6-inch guns we see that enables things like the Clevelands, the Towns...
What's the rate of fire difference between a Leander class and a Town class?
I've no idea.
Practically nothing. In terms of per barrel.
Yeah, but
And that's almost 10 years earlier.
yeah, but a
like,
Leander's going to
even
lose
from-
a fight to any Japanese heavy cruiser. If the Japanese had built a light cruiser,
It can still hurt them just as easily.
That's not the point.
Also, you can theoretically, again, get more of these light cruisers out. They take significantly less time to build. Also, we know the
And
Japanese
they also fulfill a
already
different fleet position.
Yeah. We also know the Japanese were already making sacrifices on their heavy cruisers, which degrade their capability.
Well, yes, but that was down to the position the Japanese were in.
But as Fox was saying, that the primary thing is light cruisers aren't weaker cruisers. They do different roles.
Not
And
in
at
this
times,
case, because
the Japanese very much needed those
when
light cruisers.
No, because when we're talking about this from 1921 to 30, the light cruiser doesn't exist. There's just cruisers. Whether they have 18 or 16 guns, it really doesn't
but
matter.
the doctrinal role does exist.
Yes,
They don't in the
Japanese...
treaties, but the role does exist.
Yes.
And the Japanese have ships to fulfill the role.
Yes, they do. They're 18-inch cruisers, as we see during wartime.
So the criticism of Japan lacking the 6-inch cruiser is because they're leaving elements and roles in their fleet unattended.
No, they're not. The 8-inch cruisers exist.
So you're going to intermix your 8-inch cruisers with your destroyer squadrons.
Yes,
You're
as
going to
the
use your 8-inch
Japanese...
cruisers for escorts.
Yes, as the Japanese
You're
did
going
numerous times during the war.
Note how this didn't work out as well for them.
Yes,
Yeah,
But
notice how
that's-
they did do
yes.
particularly well in that role.
yes, but that doesn't reinforce your argument at all. The answer wasn't... The Japanese saw a doctrine and they took it.
And that's why, to quote, I think they were working with a flawed doctrine. There's a reason why every single other navy did look at intermixing light and heavy cruisers. Even Germany, who had limited slip
Knight,
capacity...
that's a fundamentally flawed view. You don't need
Yeah.
light... Cruisers can protect trade, they don't have to be light.
But they're usually cheaper, so you can actually build more
yeah.
of them for.
But also, again, at
more
that
bang for your
point,
buck.
we've got the Tenryus, the Kumas, and etc.
They're not great for that, though. They're
And
too
besides,
old.
your whole argument has no water anyway, because all these ships like the Sendais, the Nagaras, etc., were built during the Washington Bloody Naval Treaty.
Yeah.
But
Which makes
this
it
is
even
why
worse,
This
please.
is why we're saying that those cruisers are much more outdated for what they should have been.
But they were literally trying to do what you were espousing, building smaller, cheaper designs.
No, they were. But in 1917,
No. The Nagaras...
that's when the Kumas are.
No, the Nagaras and the Sendais. 20 and 22. Well into Washington.
And they basically follow the same design as the Kuma.
Yeah, to save on cost and bulk out numbers, like you keep espousing is the correct
But-
thing to do.
But it's the fact that then, when you get to the 30s, they didn't bother doing anything until you basically get to Anango.
Agano.
They go. They go such a long period. Because what? And Agano's laid down 1940. And you've got the last Sendai is finished in 1925. They go 15 years without building a single light cruiser.
Well, yeah, Yeah, because they build an absolute ton of heavy cruisers for Ataka, Alba,
absolute
Miyokos, Takaus, Megamis, Tones.
That's not as many as it sounds. When you look at the numbers, that's not as many as it might initially sound.
2, 4, 8, 12, 16, 18. 18 heavy cruisers. It's not too bad. It's not an unreasonable showing in terms of heavy cruiser construction. And some of them...
Versus,
Right.
we could versus then say, if we just go... Now, I will admit this is a little bit unfair because there's the Royal Navy, but you've got... And this is going purely off light cruisers. You've got 8 Leanders. You've got 4 Arathusas. So you're already up to 12 there. You've then got another 10 towns. You've got 16 Dido. You then have 11 Fijis / Crown Colonies. And finally 3 Swiftshaws. They almost outnumber them 2-to-1 in purely light cruisers.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: if
That's without
if the Japanese had
And
cut
that's
down
without
their heavy
excluding the
cruisers to
heavies.
build, if the Japanese had cut down their heavy cruisers to build modern light cruisers, they would have gotten their teeth kicked in the opening offensives.
They got their teeth
What did
kicked
they?
in anyway.
Yeah,
Would they though?
yeah. The
Also,
heavy cruisers
Why would a
were
light
a key
cruiser
part
be?
of.
Why would these light cruisers be such a weakness to their fleet?
Because they wouldn't be heavy cruisers, which are more
But
powerful.
Fleet, we also know that
Fleet,
we also know
quantify
that some of
statement.
the most dangerous cruisers of the war were the light cruisers that were built as heavy cruisers.
Well,
Well,
yes.
not even that, but no, Fleet, quantify the statement. They are worse because they're not heavy They will lose because they're not heavy cruisers.
As we see time and again during the various battles around Abdacom and Borneo, it's the Japanese heavy cruisers that are the things delivering the blows to. Like, look at the Battle of the Java Sea. It's the heavy cruisers that put down De Ruyter and the.
A
the-
light cruiser likely would have still done the same thing.
Not as
Yeah.
easily.
Uh,
The 8-inch. The
Probably
8-inch.
quite as easily.
Well, they basically they outranged De Ruyter because she can't fire back at first. That's something you're not considering.
Yep, right. So you've got. I will admit, yep, the heavies do have a slight range increase on average.
And I mean, especially if you consider the fact that the Japanese are trying to minimize losses, it also makes more sense from that angle. If you're increasing a bracket from which
Aye.
you can engage, the enemy and they can't hit you, it kind of makes sense for a power that wants to minimize its ability to take losses. Like,
Not
should
really.
they have built more light cruisers? I mean, I think the big mistake. I think one thing I will slap them for.
Right.
One thing I will slap them for, that they should have left the Megamis as 15 centimeter ships. I think that would have made them better than the 18 ships they turned into. That is one thing I
there's
will
a-
actually admit.
There's about a 5,000 yard difference between their 6-inch and their 8-inch.
That's still a fair amount of difference.
It is.
For the
but
combat
also, the
that was taught as of like Iron Bottom Sound, and they're both easy within the range bracket of both sets of guns.
But on average, for them to hit at their 32,000 yard range, you are looking at about a 1% chance. Realistically speaking, there's not that much difference in the range in practical usage. I will agree that definitely is the difference in range, so you can at least, try and get fall of shot a bit more easily.
I feel like this is a fun.
Trying to figure
I
out
think this
ranges.
comes down to again. We've said this before. The fundamental difference in the way you and I look at things. It's one of those things where we don't agree. We just don't agree.
Like, heavy cruisers definitely have their place. It's just having 15 years of no light cruiser development. And then also, the light cruisers they get are pretty awful.
They're large destroyer leaders. To be
brutally
blunt.
honest.
They're large destroyer leaders. That's what the Aganos are. Unapologetically.
If that. But yes. And then their attempt afterwards of Oyodo is even more.
Yeah, Oyodo doesn't come out as she should. She was supposed to be a 12-gun ship, and she comes out as a weird training ship / seaplane tender.
Yeah, she's strange, I agree.
She's also the one that carries the submarines as well, isn't she?
I think she can, yes.
Yeah.
But
No,
They
Knight.
abandoned the idea
Knight.
of using light cruisers in
Knight.
their
De
doctrine.
Ruyter is a
Apart from
cruiser.
very
She's
minor
not a
things.
destroyer leader. De Ruyter is a cruiser.
Reuter is a cruiser. She's just a small cruiser.
Yeah, she's a small. She's if you add one more gun, she's analogous to the Oh come on, British cruisers, 8.6-inch guns.
Power user.
Thank you.
Leander? No, Leander.
Leander's the 8, isn't she?
Yeah, but Fleet just said 8 gun.
Yeah, because if you you'd have given the Dutch Navy what they wanted, the 8-gun version rather than the 7, she'd be very much analogous to a Leander. As it is, she's a little bit more powerful than an Arethusa. And literally that comes down to, oh, I have one extra gun. Whoopee. Right, so, next question. Why do the N3s and G3s look the way they do? Oh, simple. It's down to taking advantage of the all-forward main battery to save weight. It concentrates your citadel. That's it. It's taking advantage of the whole of the weight savings of the all-forward armament scheme. In the same way the Nelsons did.
Kind of.
I mean, there were some other reasons, but the primary one is that. Because if they weren't looking to take advantage of that, they wouldn't have been all-forward ships. Like some of the other proposals, which Foxel will probably now talk about, because she knows a lot about this.
But it's more, the reason why I say kind of, is because a lot of it was also exploiting hydrodynamics. Because you look at... It might seem strange how the Royal Navy thinks they can get the G3s to that speed. Just with surprisingly little engine power. And at large...
on little engine power.
Well, compare what you would need for the fast battleships. She doesn't have a lot of engine power. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, yeah, it's sort of the old front gun is useful, but it's not the big thing. But because the shipyard could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but because of the British, they're looking at 28 knots for battleships, for 26, 28 knots for battleships, and 32 knots for their battle cruisers. They were still looking at them. Don't know why. And I think, and essentially, it's part of the reasons you end up with the extendo design.
Extendo. Oh, hi Rishi. Yeah.
We want to give HUD want to give a battlecruiser 9 15-inch guns. Okay, how do we give a battlecruiser 9 15-inch guns? Well, we have to take HUD, widen her beam by a meter, and add 50 meters of length to her. Put 3 triples instead of 4 twins. Because the British, to get the speeds they want, really have to go really long and really set. But on the other hand, it allows you to get Iowa level speeds with about 60% of Iowa level
horsepower. Horsepower. Oh dear.
Yeah. But if you look at stuff like K3, it's not J3, it's the other one, Dragon. It's busy.
The battlecruiser one you're after, or
yeah,
which one?
J3.
J3.
K3 and J3. You'll notice that those ships have very minimal torpedo defense, and their hull forms, you're looking at, they're just built to go fast efficiently. And you're even seeing them experiment with stuff like transom sterns. Because the Royal Navy, especially after HUD, sees the future of the battlecruiser being 30 to 32 knots to 34 knots. And they're looking at what sacrifices do we have to make to get a ship that fast. The answer is a lot. Anyway, I think I'm boring fleet. Next question. Hello?
I'm here.
Yep,
I'm
still
here. I'm here. I'm just doing a thing. Right. So now that Fleet has done a think, moving on. Question 26. What if the USN chose the small MD-500 or the OH-6 Little Bird as the alternative to the drone QRH-50-? Do you think it can be an effective ASW helo from the Francan-sized ships? No. Not at all. The MD-500s or the OH-6s don't have the lift capability to lift even a single anti-submarine torpedo. Whereas the Dash can carry 2. Also, you don't need crew for the Dash. You need a flight crew for the Little Bird or the MD-500.
Do you want a tip about the Little Bird?
Yes.
Its title, in its name, the Little, doesn't quite get across how small those things are.
Like, the Little Bird can lift a... If it's in a combat role...
Rocket pod and a minigun.
Yeah, and one dude. No one else.
Can do 2.
Yeah. You might get 2 if you're feeling particularly brave. But you either take some boom boom and a guy, or you take some guys. You don't take both. And you definitely don't carry an anti-submarine torpedo.
It was not designed to be operated off an aircraft carrier or a destroyer or a frigate.
I will also point out the fact that can we point like hats off to the Little Bird pilots. Those people are insane. I am going to dive bomb this trench. I don't care. I don't have bulletproof glass. You will not survive.
To quote a great philosopher, they get so close to the enemy you could reach out and punch them.
Yes. Just literally, like massive Taliban attack coming in. Who will save them? Uncle Sam's bravest Little Bird pilot, who's on 2 hours of sleep and is drugged up on coffee. Oh, God bless those.
Quickly go get another Zeppelin.
God bless those men. Oh.
This only gave me 3 instead of 4.
Oh dear. Oh dearie, dearie me. Right. Okie dokie. So. Yeah, that's why you don't want to use that to do that.
Is the Dash the one that looks like it's got a washing machine on the front end of it?
Yes. The whole thing with a Dash is it's literally an engine, a fuel tank, and space to carry 2 torpedoes or depth charges. That is all it is.
Yeah, that thing.
But it works, and it worked really well. No, seriously, there were some losses, but surprisingly they did relatively well. Especially for a drone of their period.
I'm surprised we're not trying to call the new anti-submarine warfare drone that we're testing off the POW the Dash or something along those lines.
It would be a fitting callback. Question 27. Thoughts on adding the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force ships in sea power? Do you think the devs forgot about adding F-16, F-111 and earlier Cold War aircraft and vehicles? I have not really played sea power a lot. I'm waiting for my new PC to really crack it open. But look, give the devs time. They're working as fast as they can. Like, they have given us a new nation for no money at all. Let's not pressure the poor people.
As someone who has played Sea Power, I personally haven't played them. However, it will actually be quite nice to actually have something other than Americans and Russians.
Oh, and random people in the Middle East and India and Pakistan. And those guys.
Yeah. But on the other side of it, it is actually refreshing because you actually get to see a part of a navy that is underrepresented, and that's not even English, you know what I mean, in the Cold War period.
Yeah.
Because people forget the SCF.
They reconstituted themselves impressively well in the post-war world.
And they have some really good designs of ships.
Oh yeah, they really, like...
I think you died, Fleet.
No, I just stopped talking.
Oh, okay.
This happens.
Stopped mid-sentence.
Yeah, this happens. My brain sort of runs out of steam and I go, okay, where do I go from here? Nope, no words? Okay, I guess we're just stopping.
Yeah, don't worry, I have the same thing sometimes. Most of the time, actually thinking about
it. So, Discord question. The year is 1900 and the panel was chosen by Davy Jones to recommend a new Flying Dutchman. What ship would you recommend to Davy Jones as a new replacement? Given it's 1900, I assume that we're not doing the whole what's it called? It's not Pirates of the Caribbean Dutchman. It's the classical Dutchman.
Oh.
So at that point, then,
We crack out HMS Captain.
do you know what? Honestly, we honestly could give him captain, but no. Despite that, 1900. Let me think. So the whole thing with the Dutchman is that she's supposed to be quick. She's supposed to be quick,
A four-mast clipper.
not armed. Well, the thing is with the Dutchman,
No,
she's supposed
but, no,
to be.
I'm sorry. Tell that to the Dutch. And
She's supposed to be an
pirate.
armed. Yeah, she's supposed to be an armed merchantman. That's the whole thing with the Dutchman.
Okay, SS Great Eastern.
She's not still
She's an
around
armed
in
merchantman.
1900, is she? Is she? I will check. I will check.
I mean, we could always resurrect
When
her.
did you die? Ah, no, she was stricken in 1889. How long did she take to break up? Oh,
I definitely not
1890.
Oh.
Hmm.
What if you armed merchant cruiser and ocean liner and
That?
claim it as that?
You know what? Yeah, an armed merchant cruiser liner would be a good fit. The question would be then, what?
I'd say one of the Cunard original ships. So the Cunard twin stacks. So
What are the actually? We could probably go back to the roots. What are the Dutch? What's the Dutch liners of this period? Let me have a look. Dutch ocean liners. So Oceanic. So no, Oceanic is a little bit old. 1900 Runic. So you're a so you're a White Star. You're already 14 knots. You're not really fast enough. Okay, Oceanic. She's a White Star line ship. 21 knots. She could work. 1899. A little bit of deck space to armed
wait,
merchant cruiser.
no.
Could work.
So is the cut-off point
Titanic.
1900? Or are we talking...
1900. I've got it.
Does that include...
I've
ships laid
actually...
down in
No, I've got
1900?
it. SS Kaiser Wilhelm de Gross.
Oh,
Fourth...
God.
Because, thing is, fourth funneler, so she looks impressive when she rises from the depths.
What, like
Lots-
the bloody Rise of the Titanic?
Yeah. Oh, I will admit, that scene from that film is epic. Just the music and the... Yeah, it's a good bit. But yeah, so... Kaiser Wilhelm de Gross, yeah, you could absolutely... Absolutely do that. Yeah. That would be my pick. That was a bit of a diversion, wasn't it?
But at that point, just use the Titanic.
The Titanic comes
1900.
along in about
1900,
12 years.
she's... She's not there yet.
I don't know. It won't be the first time David Jones time travels.
Oh. Okay, YouTube. This is okay. This is some weird ones, but okay. So we're on to 81 now. So we're now on to Ramblings 81. We're making very good time today, which is actually quite good because I have done a lot of streaming this week, and a nice short catch-up Ramblings would be very, very nice.
And then we need to send your fleet to the bottom of the ocean.
No. Look, at least let me get stuck in front of Nanjing for the 30th time.
No,
Yes.
this request has been denied.
No.
You do know. Access denied.
Don't you dare. The last warship built entirely from wood. It would probably be some form of sloop or aviso. Probably much later than you'd think. Some form of dispatch vessel. Or... Still, it would be a warship, but it would be very much a secondary or tertiary vessel. Something designed to go potter about a corner of the Empire somewhere. Or...
2000... Technically, you could argue 2013.
Yeah.
Because several places in the Middle East still make wooden warships. And the Somali pirates were known to use said wooden ships for piracy.
Yeah.
What? Dows?
Yeah. So, Discord question. Which M4 Sherman tank engine do you think is best? The Ford GA, the radial engine, or the Chrysler multibank? Well, the Chrysler multibank was something for the Firefly, and was a little bit of a temperamental beast occasionally, but it served its purpose, so I'll take that out of the running. So that leaves the Ford GA or the radial. And I think I'm going to go with...
Obviously.
Yes, the radial, obviously. The radial's the later one, it's better.
No.
Oh, go on then, Foxo, school me. Get it over with.
In line. I mean... Yeah, actually.
Oh god, if she's having trouble, we're dead.
I'm just trying to think. Does it want the best overall or the best in practice?
It just says best.
Why do you think I'm asking you which one?
I don't know, it doesn't
Best
say!
Because on paper, the radial's the worst of the two engines. But the radial actually worked. Don't tell Laurie I said that.
Who?
Moe.
Oh. Well, luckily Mo won't be here for the Black Ice game, which is sad. Sad fleet noise.
They said they might not be able to, yeah.
Someone, a confidant of me, told me the Ford GAA V8 is the best for performance.
Right. Well, that's good.
If it was working, it was the better engine. Asterisk on if.
And then the most reliable is the multibank. So yeah.
YouTube, would IJ and Mikasa win against Hosh? Yes, without a shadow of a doubt.
They're
Yeah.
two different generations of ships.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be an entirely one-sided fight.
Yes.
Mikasa's
Mikasa's
made of
actually a
steel.
Hosh is...
Hosh is made of iron.
and she's armored, and she has compound armor, whereas Mikasa has early Harvey.
Does she have compound or does she have Clouseau steel?
No. She has compound. Steel...
Okay.
Because the French reverted to compound for Hosh, and then I think they reverted to compound. I'm just gonna check, but
they really skimped on everything for her.
it was basically because they were, well, she took so long to bloody complete.
Yes, that's not
It's
abnormal for the time.
Did Hosh actually have a competent crew?
Well, from what I understood, she was always capable of steaming whenever asked to, and didn't do badly in exercise.
And to be fair, for her time, when she was laid down, her guns could deal with pretty much everything afloat.
Even when she's launched, she's still better than basically everything that comes before her.
Yeah, she looks weird, but she's actually pretty good.
Well, the only
All
exception is the
rest
Admiral class ironclads, but that's simply because they're just stillily ahead of their
British.
time.
Chonkers by ironclad standards.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just
Uh,
taking the mickey by that point, just to let you know.
yeah.
I know.
Let me see. What's her armor? No, yeah, I was right, actually. Yeah, compound armor. I was actually right. Good lord. Wow, Fleet remembered something. That's a horrifying thought.
I would hope so, given your performance last night.
Oh, take a running
Yeah.
conk yourself.
I mean, come on.
I'm a
Like,
genericist,
U9
not a specificist.
U96 you couldn't even get.
I'd never seen Das Boot.
Neither have I, but I knew it was U96.
That doesn't mean
Yeah,
anything.
to be fair, Fleet, even I knew what U96 was.
Oy. Right.
I didn't even watch that.
YouTube asks, what is everyone's favourite first straight ship of the line from the Age of Sail? As a member of the dry dock staff, I am contractually obligated to say Victory. Now that I have fulfilled my contractual obligations, I can give my actual answer. Honestly, politely.
Trinidad.
Okay, that's an interesting pick.
What? There's something glorious about the commie block resales.
Yeah. I like the Ocean class French 80 gunners, 2-deckers, because the French just keep pumping them out through the entire Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, and they're just generally good ships.
I mean, the Royal Navy like them.
Yeah.
So.
To be fair, going generically here, the song of the era was "Don't You Know, Pump It Out. We've got to pump 'em out."
Ha 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 ha.
Sorry, playing with radios for 2 weeks has not made my sane anymore.
No, perhaps not. Right. YouTube question: what if Hosh isn't ugly? Discuss. Well, to me, she's
Wait,
not.
You haven't done me
How-
yet.
Oh, whoops. Shipyard, ship of the line,
How-
go!
HMS Caledonia.
Ooh, that's a pick.
All of you will die to the floating commie block.
No, I'm just gonna run away laughing hysterically while you can't even bloody steer yourself.
I'm sorry.
You just sat there flailing about in the wind like a bloody spinning top.
Yes,
Imagine
and then I
building the
come
ship
to
out
your
of
home.
mahogany.
You can't even
Come on.
You can't even get to me. Anyway, so, what if Hosh isn't ugly? Discuss. Well, considering that beauty is subjective and in the eye of the beholder, she isn't, to me. But to the rest of the panel, she is. Because again, beauty is subjective.
She'd only look good at the bottom of the ocean.
Now, Fleet, if you said she was at least, an interesting ship for her time and gave technological advancements, that I will at least give you. Saying she's pretty while being this, I will never
I
give
like
you.
the way she looks.
You had a way to avoid having people comment on your visual tastes, and you chose not to take
I
it.
don't care. Visual taste is subjective, and anyone else who doesn't think so is a hack.
Lee, have you been to Specsavers recently?
I have perfect 2020 vision, thank you very much.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he only has 2020 hindsight though.
YouTube question. How much influence did Howe's tactics at the 1st of June have on Duncan's tactics at Camperdown? Oh. We're a little bit into the Age of Sail for... I don't know either of those two battles.
Wait, which one? Which battle?
How much influence did Howe's tactics at the 1st of June have on Duncan's tactics at Camperdown?
Oh, the glorious 1st of June.
Please tell me somebody knows what they're talking about. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I know what it is. It's another French naval defeat against the British during the Napoleonic, the Revolutionary Wars against the British Navy.
Yes.
But we got a convoy through, so that's why it's called the glorious 1st of June, because we actually get a little bit of success out of it.
Whoopee. You
But
succeeded.
tactics-wise,
Congratulations! We
Yeah,
won!
yeah.
What did we win? Well, the convoy got through, and the navy. Don't talk about it. It's fine. How many did we lose to the British this time?
21.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Well, situations were reversed about 200 years earlier, but yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Right. So, next question is. YouTube question: what if Hosh was turned into an aircraft carrier? You can't she doesn't have the deck length.
Yeah, theoretically
better,
you can,
though.
I just don't recommend it.
You could turn her into a passable seaplane tender. That would be doable.
How long is Hope again?
Like, you could turn her into a
Hope?
passable seaplane tender.
One second.
She's
is
she's 100 meters long. She's 100 meters long.
Apparently, during a fleet review where Kaiser Wilhelm was attending, he said when she passed, "What a nice dartboard.
Hey!
What a nice target."
Joe, I'm gonna
Yeah.
give that Kaiser a piece of my mind. I don't care that he's dead. Where's his grave? I've got.
Hey, you're gonna give
Which
him the old
host-
Thatcher 8 special.
Wait,
Yes.
which version of host do you like?
The correct one, the unique one, the 1891 Ironclad.
But yeah, no, but she went through multiple refits, so I just wanted to check to make sure you weren't.
As built. She lost some of her
So not
superstructure.
1895.
Yeah, the 1895 refit. I can't believe I'm saying this, but as built, she looks okay. I don't know what they did in the 1895 refit, but
They almost turned into a submarine.
yeah, the 1895 refit I am not keen on at all. It just,
It's weird.
yeah.
So, from doing some looking, actually, I think Hoach could be turned into an aircraft carrier.
Oh, what's your hypothesis?
But she's not going to be any more useful than after, like, 1919 as a carrier. I'm talking
hang
early
on.
days of biplanes.
Hang on a minute.
Theoretically speaking, you could probably make her flight deck a bit longer than she is currently, so you can get maybe 110 meters out of her flight deck, which admittedly is still very short,
Well,
but 110 meters would be enough to land and recover biplanes, or to take off and land biplanes. I said, it's not a good idea.
yeah, she
by
doesn't have a
any
lot of hangar
means.
space.
Like, yes, I get maybe like
This
6
is what
planes out
this
of her.
is. This is why I say you'd be better served keeping some form of central superstructure and turning her into a seaplane tender.
Well, no, you could honestly just turn her into a full flat deck and still have her as a seaplane tender.
Yeah, you could do, but I'd rather have somewhere to store my seaplanes that isn't, in the open air.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting. Actually, have them as like below flight deck thing. You won't get many, but you'll still
Yeah.
get some.
Right.
So if we had to make her into a full deck aircraft carrier, then
I mean, we could.
do you reckon?
Go on.
Do you reckon going an Argus style? So bridge under the, but obviously on Argus you didn't have the bridge underneath the forward flight deck bit. But imagine putting the flight deck, the bridge under the flight deck forward, trunking the funnels down, well, exhaust down aft, and then pointing them outwards. Maybe at the very end of the actual stern itself, or maybe trunking them along the waterline, akin to maybe the modern day German warships, and that type of thing. Do you reckon that
Yeah,
would
I
probably
think-
work?
It's probably the best you're gonna get. It's not gonna be good, but it's still the best you're gonna get.
To be fair, the French aren't good at making carriers. It's like a Ben. Sorry, have a personal hatred
Because we
against
didn't
that.
put any money into it as well. So if you try, everyone can succeed, right? Like Bjorn still
I'd
has
say-
her torpedo tubes. Like
I'd say this
seriously.
is probably going to be a really good ship for Gallipoli.
Hmm.
If you think about it, if you send it to Gallipoli, you can launch and recover aircraft, and then, in theory, they'd probably go, "Well, she's not much use. Let's send her up the Dardanelles," and then she'll sink, and then everyone will go, "Yay!"
Actually,
Sorry, Fleet.
It's all right.
she's a tumble home ship, right? What if you just turn the tumble home part of her into just a huge ass bulge, mine bulge or torpedo bulge, and just send her into Gallipoli?
What, turn her into like the Gorgon?
Yeah, just send her as the first ship of the battle line, and with the whole battle cruiser fleet behind her or something.
She turns a Swiss cheese at that point.
Yeah. But she does have a full waterline belt, which helps a lot with not sinking by gunfire and such. So. Next.
Oh. Anyway. Where did I put my MacGuffin? Ah, there it is. YouTube, what if HMS Warspite after World War II had been sold to West Germany to hold up the Baltic against the Soviets? I mean, my first
Not
question...
happening.
Yeah, my first question would be why.
What the hell?
Because A, she's worn out. Well, she's worn out. She's life expired. She has no more left to give. She's down a turret. The choices are either preservation or a going out behind the woodshed. That's your
Remember,
lot.
Lenny,
The Germans can't maintain her even if they get her. If they get her, the Germans are going to go, ooh, steel. Steel we can use for other things. And we can, if we break her up, that provides employment. Off you go. That's honestly, unfortunately, the long and the short of it. YouTube question. As the British could have built one Challenger, two Polaris-class protected cruisers for the Australian Division, one Diadem, one Apollo-class protected cruiser for the Canadians, one Pearl-class protected cruiser for the New Zealand Division, and one Mersey-class protected cruiser for the South Africa Station, what benefits could be found from this extra construction? Apart from the ships existing, very little. You've created more cruisers. So, yay? I guess? I mean, things are slightly better protected. I mean, the Polaris class cruisers aren't worth much, being third class cruisers. Yeah, the Polaris class really aren't worth much. In fact, they're a detriment. They should really building them was a mistake. The Challenger's useful. So yeah, the Australians are gonna look at the two Polaris class and go, "Why have you built these things that we really don't?" You know, it's just, yeah. Please stop. Please stop. Stop. We really don't want these. The diadems. Yeah, the diadems could be useful. Again, they're fairly powerful ships. So they could be useful. The Apollo class. Calls them second class protected cruisers, but honestly, I'm looking at them and they don't deserve to be called second class. They are third class through and through. So again, they're probably not worth the steel used to build them at that point. Built by World War One. Go away. Stupid document.
What do you mean, stupid document?
It's not working the way I want it to.
What do you mean it's not working?
It's doing stupid things. Anyway, just
What stupid things?
it's fine. I fixed it. Moving on.
The document doesn't do anything, Fleet. Only you do things to the document.
Again. So yeah. Again, Pearl class, third class protected cruiser. Like I said, not worth the steel used to build it. So the New Zealanders are going to be very sad. They've been given, well, and the oh, good lord. The Merseys are okay, but by World War One they'll be basically obsolete. So, I mean, you've made more cruisers, but anything third class in that list is almost next to useless. But yeah, the only benefits is really there are slightly more cruisers knocking around, but that's pretty much it. YouTube question. I've asked this question before, but I'm curious. What if Fisher had the Revenge class entirely converted into Renowns? That would be a massive detriment.
That's scary.
That would be a massive detriment to the fourth generation of the capability of the RN.
Actually, it's a massive step up, I would argue.
No, that denies the battle
For
fleet
the time,
5 new 15-inch armed battleships that can stand in the line of battle.
but you have just gave the battle cruiser force now 5 new 15-inch armed fast battle cruisers, which are on top of Hood. That gives you at least 6 ships. That's 2 full squadrons. Potentially.
It's a double-edged
Squadrons
sword,
of 3
though.
ships. Yeah. Yes, it is. But I think you're more likely to see the Royal Navy building more battleships to account for that, though, if this happens.
Yeah, the problem is, though, what are they going to build? They're basically the only option is to build more Avengers. In terms of rapid construction then and there.
No, there's plenty of other designs. At the same time, there was a design for the... Basically, it was a Queen Elizabeth, but make it a Iron Duke style. 25, 26 knots, 10, 15-inch guns.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
but
Super
that's a
Kiwis.
generation behind the Revengers.
No, they're not.
They're technically
Not
the same
really.
gen.
Yeah.
They're just different propulsion. That's the only thing that's...
Yeah, the thing
And
is,
also,
though,
if you give these Super Kiwis small tube boilers, they're not outdated. They're perfectly good.
the whole point
Now
with
you've
the
got-
Revenge class was a mass build-out of 15-inch ships to bulk up the battle line and enable the retirement of the 12-inch ships from the battle line. The Royal Navy now can't do that.
Well, all you've done is delay it.
No, you've stopped it entirely, because they're not going to be finished by Washington.
But if they're built enough, Britain will likely go, well, no, we're not accepting to lose these.
No, they're not going to get them. They can squeeze Hood in, but and the renowned swarm they've got, but they're not going to get anything else. They're going to have to scrap them and build something new. Just like Japan had to scrap the Tosas and the Amagis, despite them being very well advanced in their construction.
Different scale here.
Yeah,
Also,
because
Toast Amagis
you remember
were
that Tosa and Amagi were essentially G3 equivalents, not QE equivalents.
not even a Super QE equivalent. Like, keep in mind they're 39,900 tons standard displacement. Unfortunately, I can't remember the exact name of the Super Queen Elizabeth classes thing, so I can't find it. But these Queen Elizabeths would only be about 30.
I maintain it was. I maintain
these are
it's
probably
an-
only about 35,000.
What?
And again, the Royal Navy's got a lot more power to say, yeah, no, we're going to go with this one or another. Also, the Toasters weren't actually that far along.
My point still is,
It's more the fact
Why-
that it's a detriment
This
in
is
World War One,
it's a
but
detriment
it's a
of.
bonus in World War Two.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
What's escorting the convoys then? Say hello to much more
Super
losses.
Kiwis.
QEs are just the renowns. Like Renown did and Repulse did.
And also, a Sharnals and Eisenhower is not going to pick a fight with a Repulse or a Repulse style ship because, they can chase us down.
They can pick a one-on-one. If it's 2-on-1, it's not Lofferton. They absolutely
And
will
you've
pick
got
a
an-
fight with a Renown.
And who said the Royal Navy's sending just one?
Yeah,
Yeah, but now you need
but
now you need
it's
2
also the
capital ships
fact
for the same
that
deterrence.
you've given the Royal Navy functionally 6 to 7 discount fast capital ships.
I don't like this. It goes against.
They can in World War II. They can bully anything that's not a full scale fast battleship.
So basically, now you've got. So in total, you will have 7 Renown type and Hood. So you've got 8 battlecruiser / fast battleships.
The Avengers are more useful overall as battle line units.
But they're not though.
They are though.
When were they used?
Not by World War II.
When were they used as battle line in World War II?
The Indian Ocean raid, the Mediterranean.
They weren't battle. They weren't battle line.
Yes, they were. What do you think they were doing in the Mediterranean and during the Indian Ocean campaign? They were literally the battle line of those formations. Yes, the QEs were the flashy part when it came to gun line capital ships, but the majority of the gun line were Avengers.
Yeah, you could do the same thing, the same effect of a
To
couple
quote,
of battle
to
cruisers.
quote,
No!
the Revenge class when they were stationed in the Eastern Fleet were no longer even deemed frontline warships. They were not battle line vessels.
I don't know where you're reading that, but whoever wrote that is a idiot.
Because think of what they're having to fight if they are to be frontline battle line vessels.
Yeah, the Congos, the Issei,
Nagatos.
that's close to a fair fight.
Ah, what the fuck? No, you're massively overestimating the odds here, Fleet.
I like the R's, but an R versus the modernized Nagatos?
There's two
Ain't
Nagatos.
happening.
You've got to
There's
remember that,
four Rs.
Fleet, at times, the Royal Navy classified the R's as disposable. That should
Also-
tell you how much the Royal Navy thought of them.
Also,
By
Yeah.
World War II.
It's the reason why we gave one to the bloody Soviets.
Yeah.
like, so you're theoretically speaking, yes, it might cause. This definitely is a problem to us. But also, if these have been converted to battle cruisers, the Admiralty is going to tell them, no, we're getting another few battleships. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, but that gives you perhaps two Nelsons.
No, but right. No, because if they say are then building these, so say the Admiralty have then done this and say, okay, right, 1918, we demand these ships because we need these.
That's not how the
probably
naval
get two-
treaties
two-
work. They're not going
Yeah,
to be
what
ready
naval
in
treaty
time.
in 1918?
No, but they're not going to be finished by the time of the treaties.
What, 3 years?
Yeah, they're not
3
going to be
years?
done.
Yeah, there will be.
I don't think so.
Fleet,
Considering,
how long does it normally take for a ship in the Royal Navy to be built?
yeah, there's nothing. They don't have a design to lay down in 1918. They're going to have to go off.
They
They do.
literally do. I just
They do,
told
though.
you they did.
Yeah, but politely, what happened to what happened to the other three admirals? Oh wait, what happened? Sorry,
Admirals
what's
are
that?
fine.
No,
They were they
correct
were
you there.
they were
The
broken
admirals
up
weren't
to be
cancelled.
reworked.
Because of the treaty. The admirals were cancelled because the design was not up to spec.
Wow, what do you know?
Because
You've
the
just
Admiralty
torpedoed your own argument.
Believed,
How?
no, the Admiralty believed that the admirals specifically
Wait,
were
so Fleet.
unsuitable for the role that they were envisioned for.
So wait, Fleet. Are you telling me a design that was proposed about 1917, 1918 for the basically enlarged Queen Elizabeths?
That was not proposed in 1917, 1918. That was a 1913 proposal.
No, it wasn't. Not
Yes,
the one
it
I'm
was.
referring to.
Not the one he's referring to, Fleet.
They were literally designed to be on after potential R class. From what I remember seeing. Also, even then, they've had design improve. You can easily improve the design in that period in between. The designs are there and will work.
Getting rid
Also,
of the
you're- also, you're
Revengers for
saying
these renowns is a mistake.
It's bad for World War One, I admit.
It's bad,
It's good
period.
for World War Two.
What? Right? Why is it bad for World War II?
The Revengers serve a vital second-line role as disposable assets. The Renowns are not capable of being used the same way. They are not
Why?
disposable assets.
Why?
Yeah, because Renown especially isn't a disposable asset because she's a frontline asset. The Royal
Fleet,
Navy
why
want
can-
warships like Renown in World War Two.
Why are these ships not suitable for the Royal Navy in World War II then?
They're not suitable, but they take a capability away of a relatively reliable second-line capital asset. the Royal Navy now no longer has
How
that.
often are you needing this second?
Oh, let me
line
think.
capital asset?
Vital convoys,
Also-
the Mediterranean, the Indian
also, would
Ocean,
you like to know what
shore
else happens
bombardment.
then in
I
this
could
case?
go on.
Then would you like to know what else happens in this case then? Royal Navy probably keeps some 13.5s around. There's your second line asset.
Let me see. There's wonderful thing opposite. Oh, what's that? It's second London on the horizon. Oh, would you look at that?
Yes.
Oh, would you
and-
look at that? The Royal Navy's got a completely different fleet composition now, which means
So they'll-
London will be completely different. So will
different.
Washington. Because I'm willing to bet you, if the Royal Navy had 7 fast battle cruisers at Washington Naval Treaty, the Americans are going to want their own battle cruisers, and the Japanese are going to want their own battle cruisers, because that's a force that can blockade you on the
And if
sea
the Americans and the
without
Japanese
you while bypassing your battle fleet.
And if the
So
Americans and the
Americans are gonna
Japanese
want
demand
battle
them,
cruisers.
if they both demand new ones, the Royal Navy ain't going to go, well, fine, we'll keep with our old ones as just those. No, they'll go, well, we want to at least build one or two new vessels of our own. London and Washington will be entirely different because of this change.
Oh. I just hate this change on principle. It's trading valuable, dependable assets for what are
Or
essentially...
even more valuable assets.
Yeah, sure.
To what the Royal Navy considered, yes.
Put it this way, there's a reason Renan was so valuable to the Royal Navy.
She was, because she was one of only 3
To
captains.
the point that she got refit priority in 1943 over Duke of York.
Fleet, what stops the British building new battleships after the last Renown? Knight, have you been listening at all to what I've been saying?
Yeah, but, right.
I think the only way this will work, to counter, obviously, fleet and counter yourselves, you'd have to refit the R's, the Renowns, essentially, to be basically not paper thin. You'd actually have to give them a decent enough belt, like the refits, but earlier, to actually make them a combat effective vessel. That way, I think it would perfectly be fine to have 7 Revengers knocking around, Renowns, whatever you want to call them, and it'll be fine. Then you obviously get the refitted, more better battleships to then take that centre line battle fleet role, but having obviously the big massive squadron of Revengers and the Hood.
Yeah.
Does that make everyone happy now? Do we all agree?
I don't like
Yes.
it because it's gutting a very vital part of the Royal Navy's World War One program, which just goes against everything that is logical. I don't like it when people write things that aren't logical. It hurts my head.
Unfortunately, that is
The 90
often the nature of
Knight,
the world.
the Revenge class battleships by the 30s were not a liability,
Yeah,
and
I
they
don't
were-
entirely know where he's getting that one from.
and they were replaced by the KGVs. That was the Revenge replacement. That's literally what the KGVs were. Unfortunately, this
Well,
thing called World War II kind
quite,
of happened. So, well, it was supposed to be the KGVs came in, then the Revengers start bowing out gradually, with Royal Oak being the last. Because she was obviously the one that had some work done to her. And then, of course, you get the Vanguards coming in. The Revengers were not a liability. They were still, by some metrics, decent ships. I mean, with superchargers, they can give a go to any
I
ship in
think
the
that's
world.
something that all of us can agree. Like, ours were definitely still useful by World War II.
Yeah,
No one's
I just
denying that.
I just get annoyed because to me personally, I consider slower battleships in numbers more useful than 1 or 2 fast battle cruisers. I'd rather have 5 or 6 Revengers than 1 or 2 Renowns.
But you're not getting 1 or 2 Renowns in this case.
Yeah,
You're
I
getting
don't.
5 or 6
No, but what I
Renowns.
mean is,
And strategic mobility will always be.
yeah, there is that. I don't know. I don't like trading battle line competency for 30 knot whimsicalness.
But it's not 30 knot whimsicalness, it's sea control. Until the carriers come in number.
It just doesn't sit
That's
right
what the
with
battle
me.
cruisers are. They're just sea control at this point.
I can totally look. Despite everything I've said, I can see your points, and they are logical. But I just don't agree. I can
Really?
understand, but I don't agree.
Would it make life easier if some of them got refitted into aircraft carriers
Prob-
between the walls?
The problem is once they're, I was going to say once they're built,
Once
they're
they're
not going to
battle
get
cruisers, they're probably
converted.
not going to want to do it.
But then of
Is this a
course,
Lexington familiar?
Ow.
no,
Foxo.
it's
That one shot.
it's. Thing is, in World War II, I am concerned
Yep.
by the lack of heavy convoy escort availability, because the Royal Navy is not going to want to use 30-knot capital ships to do that, because they've got other things they could be doing, like proactively going in.
To be fair, they use KGVs as convoy escorts.
Yeah.
So they'll probably do it.
And you've also got to remember that they put renown on convoy escort, but if you've got more fast capital ships, like,
The-
say that.
Good afternoon, everyone. The other thing that I'm hearing that's missing from this discussion is strategic mobility, because if your max speed is higher, your cruise speed will be higher, which means you can get to hot spots quicker. And if your ship is doing 25 odd knots, you're going to have a much slower strategic reaction time than you will if you have a 35 knot ship.
I mean, I will just address something the Knight has said. It's not. They weren't considered disposable. That's not. They're not disposable. What they are is less war critical. They're not going to go like the Royal Navy still cringed when they lost Royal Oak, and some of the other R's were heavily damaged. They were not disposable assets.
With Royal Oak because she was the one that was refit.
But still, they were not disposable assets. What they were was more acceptable to be risked. But they're still battleships, which is not an asset that even an older asset that you risk unnecessarily. And the fact that you're saying that they cannot be upgraded as much as the QEs, if the Royal Navy had been willing to sump up the cash, they could have been upgraded, as Royal Oak was. The problem was that, well, the QEs exist, and are just the same ship, but arguably better. So, you know, it's kind of... It's not that the R's couldn't be upgraded, it's just that they weren't. Basically.
But the R's also, because of their smaller hull, do just have less capacity for upgrades.
Yeah, there is that, but it's not like they just can't be upgraded.
Well, yeah, as to quote, Royal Oak had literally just been in for refit, and it's part of the reason they cringe was, the most capable of the R's just got sunk.
Bugger. What do you mean one
I
bloke?
think there's also another part of that is also the
Children.
realization that
What?
Weren't there a lot of children on board her? Something like that?
No.
No.
No. So, another part of it was the realization that Scapa Flow, which they believed was impregnable, was also not impregnable.
Yes.
Is another issue that, makes them go, "Ugh."
In the business, we call that a reality check.
Yep.
Certainly is.
Right. So, I think we should probably move on from this question because it's
that's
driving
what
me.
we're going
It's
to do.
driving me insane. Right.
Using
Okay.
new blood.
Yeah. What is a not talked about tank from World War II? Turan. The Turan and the Toldi series from Hungary. They never get.
I'll straight up agree with you there. Those are definitely good choices.
They never get enough attention, given they were basically Toldi was heavily based on the L60. You could see the L60's DNA in Toldi, so that wasn't an entirely Hungarian design, but it was a
Are
high.
you referring to the 38M Toldi here
Yes.
in particular?
Yeah, the 38M.
You also get the
But even Toldi 2 and Toldi 3 are outgrowths of that design.
Yeah.
But they are entirely Hungarian built. The real standouts are the Turan and the Zorini. because those are Hungarian designed and Hungarian built. Entirely domestic bits of kit. And of course, the real star was the TAS-44, that sadly never moved beyond the prototype stage because Hungary bowed out of the war. That would have been arguably a better mid-range advanced tank than the Panther. If they'd have actually got the thing working.
Like, yeah, I serve agree. The Toldies are definitely good ones. Honestly, even just the what's it called various
380.
Skoda works.
Just anything from Skoda, yeah.
I mean,
Just-
the various
one tank I
Romanian
would have loved to see.
various Romanian
would be-
proposals that we see, the Romanians actually were cooking. The Romanians did a lot of cooking when it comes
Yeah,
to came
but
to...
you've been touching my gushing about the Czechs.
Okay, carry on. Well, the thing is, it kind of ties into the Czechs. A lot of the Romanian stuff.
38T, arguably the first
Is it-
tank that would define the modern tank. 5-man crews, 3-man turrets. Well, the later ones, 3-man turrets. Inline engine at the back would sort of create the foundation of what a functional tank is. This warehouse is haunted.
But
Why we got?
also,
Oh,
then
Moon,
you see,
Moon's haunted.
you see what you see also what the Skoda it's called Czechs were planning with Skoda T25.
Oh yeah, like the Czechs were denied the ability
it's
to
like-
cook by the Germans. Although, to be fair, the Czechs still tried to cook even when the Germans were in charge.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
Germans could not stop the
there is-
Czechs from cooking.
Everyone did.
Look,
honestly.
there is a reason that the German army that went into France was equipped with 38Ts.
Yeah. And it was the best.
People
Like-
gush about the Panzer III, but the 38T? Now that's a workhorse. Hello, Grog.
Like, I would also say the the Polish 7 and 10 TP tanks were very good for what.
Oh
they
yeah,
were.
like
also
the
see
late,
that
like
Poland
the first
actually
Mark.
had very good ideas for the 14 TP.
Yeah, the first Mark of 7
They're
TPs
later.
were just 6 tons domestically produced, but then the Poles went, you know what? New turret and new gun, and suddenly
Yeah.
the 7 TP became a tank that
Those
could...
ones I'm referring to.
Yeah, like
You then got
like
the 10 TP,
yeah, the 10
which is a
TP.
good development.
Yeah, like our RIP 10 TP taken from us before your time.
Well, no, I'd say the ones that's real rip is stuff like the 14, 25, and 30 TPs.
The only downside to 10 TP
Petrol
is
heavy
the
ones.
fact that it still, I can understand why, and I get it, but it still had the same 7 TP turret. Although it would have probably been interesting to see what might have, developed out of 10 TP.
Well, it's called 14 TP.
Oh.
Like, it's literally a. The plan was to mount initially it was mount the same 37, but in a new turret. This was meant to be a medium one. Then you've also got the further upgrade, the further tank designs of the 20/25 TP. These were to be mounted with, depending on which design you go off, either a 70mm, the Bofors 75, or a Polish 75mm main gun, and had variations in 22, 23, and 25 tons. Like, we actually know a fair bit about Polish tank development of this period, and a lot of it is very much these could have been good if they had a chance to actually see where these went.
Mhm.
Poles aside, one from the major powers actually that never gets talked about enough. T50.
T50s, I think, if this had been a couple of years ago, I would agree with you, but unfortunately T50 has kind of seen a bit of a renaissance as of late.
Has it?
Yeah, War Thunder,
Various
World
games.
of Tanks, etc. It's become a well-known vehicle. Whereas things like Turan, the Czech tanks, the later Polish models still are not. But if we want to talk about niche tanks that of major powers, I mean, come on, the real answer is staring us in the face here, the new construction vehicles of Germany. And things like the Leech Tractor, the very early developments in German tank production. Like they're
Everyone
not...
knows those.
Yeah, I
Everyone knows
I wouldn't say that about the Leash Tractor. That's for damn certain.
Like, if you
Uh,
want to do that, if you want to say that, Fleet, instead of saying Leak Tractor, say Gross Tractor.
yes, sorry, that was what I meant. Sorry, you're quite right. I was thinking of the, you know, the one that's not the new construction vehicle, but it's the one that came before. Yeah, that one.
Yes.
Right. Well, there you are. That's some.
Also, in general, while they are known about, I'd still say they are undervalued. Is Crusader for the British?
Honestly, I would go even further than that. I would say it's not Crusader that's the undervalued one. It's A9 and A10. A9 and A10 are chronically unknown.
No, not really, because there's actually a lot of knowledge about those in the modelling circle.
Yeah.
There's Cruiser Mark, and also the
A13
Cruiser
is
Mark
known
1's
from War
definitely
Thunder.
some sense, but-
Can we
Yeah.
can we get away with Bishop? Can we get away with Bishop? I mean, I know it's not technically a tank.
Actually,
No, a lot. No, most
speaking
people
of
know-
Bishop,
most
there's a
people
tank
know of
we've all
Bishop.
forgotten.
No, most people know of Bishop because of how awful Bishop was. Why would you limit your artillery elevation to like plus 20 degrees?
It was a Sturmgeschützen.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It was an artillery piece.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Anyway,
literally...
and so the most you're all missing those underrated, untalked about tank of World War II.
Mhm.
The Valentine.
No, we don't talk about a lot.
no, the criteria here isn't underrated. It's not well known. The Valentine's
Not
well
well
known.
known.
Valentine.
No, they are very well known.
Yeah, the Valentine's very
So
well
if
You
known.
ask
Excellently
most
in
people
Russia
what a
and
Valentine
fucking
is, they'll
well
look at you like,
Well, I think... Well, no, thing is, you ask most people what World War II tank is and they'll look at you funny.
They'll go, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it's a known thing.
like what we're discussing is basically we're talking about people who know, you know, more than average. Joe knows.
I'll throw in the AMC 35 as well.
You mean the... no, I mean the AMC or S35, depending on which you prefer.
Right.
I'll prefer the AMC because S35 was not very mechanically reliable, at least for the earlier ones.
Oh yeah, that was... Well, either way, that particular vehicle, I'd say it's on the edge. It's on the edge because...
of glory, and
because
it's hanging
S35
on.
stop that!
by a
Stop
thread.
that!
S35 is known because of World of Tanks.
AMC is... yeah.
AMC, on the other hand,
Yeah, no, that's a good
that
point.
one's much less.
That
well
is
known.
a good point. I didn't even think they were the same vehicle. No, that's a good point. Well
Also-
done,
also
well
look
done,
at
Rishi.
the
Yeah,
thing,
well
they are
done, Rishi. Yeah, well
Look
done,
in
Rishi.
Dex, look in the chat.
Yeah.
It looks pretty menacing from the front, actually.
Oh yes, and that's got that nice 47 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
Which,
And it's I will at least give it some credit.
Two-man turret.
It has a two-man
a
turret.
two-man turret. Yeah.
Doing
It was
better than most
basically the French
vehicles.
attempting to work towards fixing some of the issues they knew they had with their vehicles. But basically, a lot of the French designs you see, like the French know about the problems with the one-man turret. They know.
Yeah.
The problem is they want
The
to
cavalry.
keep keep cost and crewing numbers down. Which you know, the things like the S35, the R35 enable them to do. I mean, honestly, if we want to talk about underrated and unknowns, the French infantry tanks, the H35, the R35, and the 39, those things are brilliant for infantry support. They are tough armored little bricks that can go with the infantry and just do things. Like, if you want to remove that annoying German there, you call up your little friend in his R35 and he comes up and he lobs a small HE shell that destroys that poor German's emplacement. I admit, 37mm gun is...
shit if the Germans have a door knocker.
Well, no, it doesn't. The 37 can't penetrate the R series or the H series at normal battle ranges.
Could it not?
No.
Because the door knock was capable of penning T-34s in the early war.
Armor quality? I don't know.
The door knocker could penetrate T-34s from the side in key areas, not frontally.
No, from the front.
No.
Quite literally, the Germans have photos of where the 37's gone straight through the front upper plate of the P-34.
That could be down to build quality, though. In fact, it would surprise me if it wasn't down to build quality. But yeah, they're going to have no such luck with the R35 or the H35 because they actually have cast hulls. Both have nice cast hulls made of good quality steel, and your frontal armor is 43mm thick of sloped cast steel. Yeah, Door Knocker is not having fun time.
It might fall a bit, but
Yeah. But problem is, congratulations, you have now let the R35 know where you are. 37mm HE shall be upon ye, and another one, and another one, and another one, until you're dead.
You know how people always compare those middle of World War II German shells to the Allied ones because the German 88 is so long and the case is so huge.
Yeah.
But then you gotta compare the French very, very early war shells with the German very, very early war shells, and you have the long 47 with a cap compared to the tiny capless Door Knocker. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and the funny thing is with the little, like, the short-barreled and the long-barreled 37s that the H39 and R35 had, they were pretty handy guns, actually. They were apparently a joy to aim and fire. Like, they were really,
Yeah, because they were short. Yeah, something like that. Look, I posted a picture in chat so people can see.
Let's have a look.
Second. It's a big.
Oh.
Here we go.
Oh my lord! Chonker. Ah, look at that. Good stuff. Good stuff. Right, so, hey, that was a nice question. I enjoyed that. That was a nice question. YouTube, as the Royal Australian Navy, we're better off buying one Admiralty 5, 2 Admiralty W, 5 Admiralty S class DDs, along with 1 Admiralty V and 1 Parker class DL in World War One. If they had done this instead of buying second hand, is it better in the short or long term, or was it better to buy second hand? I'm going to actually open this up to the panel. Well, partially because I need a 2-minute bio break, but partially because I trust Dragon and Foxo on this one. They're more destroyer-minded than I am.
Kill, burn, main name.
Hey, let's see if I can actually find the question so I can answer it properly, because I was focused on something else. So what was the question he said there? If the Royal Navy had going into the 1920s, was it that one? Yeah, it must be, because that's where he got up to. Royal Australian Navy had going to the 1920s 1 battlecruiser, 4 light cruisers, 3 destroyer leaders, 8 destroyers, 6 torpedo boat destroyers, 4 sloops, 1 submarine depot, 8 submarines. How to grow despite the naval treaties. Why do we have torpedo boat destroyers? Modern destroyers, I'd say, would be a high priority. Hello? Everyone's just went very silent. Right. Everyone's went silent. I was like, audio cut out or? Hello, you Minecraft watcher.
I'm still in wake up mode, so.
I'm trying to keep quiet because the local council estate's doing council estate stuff.
Your thoughts then, Foxo?
Oh, what's the question again? Sorry, I'm just trying to get Minecraft stuff working.
Ooh.
If the Royal Australian Navy going into the 1920s had 1 battle cruiser, 4 light cruisers, 3 destroyer leaders, 8 destroyers, 6 torpedo boat destroyers, 4 sloops, 1 submarine depot ship, and 8 submarines, how would you grow despite the naval treaties?
acquire modern destroyers.
Yeah.
That's like the only thing you can do. And try and replace the sloop with one of the Royal Navy's modern equivalents. Because as a fighting force, those World War One era sloops ain't gonna be worth much at this point. As for what to replace them with, honestly, just
I think
in this situation,
the current admiralties, like, or are you referring to the sloops here?
the sloops, first things first, they need to be gone. The admiralties, you might be able to justify keeping around. I'd
V's
say-
and W's, I think, are the only ones you'd have a hope of doing that.
Because all with those, it depends on can they last till the Great Depression.
Yeah. Because all of this is, they got the problem of, will this be here in the 30s? Or will it all just be scrap metal?
But considering Australia did keep around some flush decks of all things, it'll probably be here.
In the early 20s, as soon as HMS, what's it called, as Ambuscade comes out, get more of those. Would be my plan for the modern destroyers.
A-class destroyer then.
Yeah, basically the predecessor to the A-class, and then get the actual A-class as soon as we can.
Because, and then I would want
We
to
also got
try and
HMS.
replace them with either, if the Royal Navy can help subsidize, you try and get tribals, or
Yeah.
try and go for some of the E's and I's.
I was going to say, perhaps if we can get our hands on I-class in the 30s.
Yeah, sort of either try and domestically build tribals or try and just get more E's. Because Electra and I try and get V's as well if that's what they're actually called.
Which ones?
Vampire.
Vampire is a original V-class from World War One.
Is she?
Yeah.
Then yeah, you
Hence why
actually
they're
know.
Vampire.
And yeah, you probably could see a lot of these stick around then, I'd say. Anyway, I think I need to go on with food, so I'll be back in a bit, probably.
Give me 1 second, I need to go downstairs, get another cider, and also another laptop.
Just a perfect time to disappear, considering my voice is slowly dying.
Drink some cider. and make it
Ronan,
better.
rant!
But Runon's not got anything to rant about, I don't think. They've got their clearance back, they can do work. They're no longer paid for,
First off,
sitting
I
on
never
their ass
lost my-
constantly.
I never lost my
Sorry.
clearance. I just didn't
Yeah, but they
have
could
the
prove you
right
had clearance.
Because believe it or not, different government agencies have different clearances, and they are not necessarily cross-compatible. I missed the snitties and combat wheelchair question, but I was having a really good sleep, so small sacrifices. What was Fleet's reaction to that question?
I don't remember.
Aw. I like to wind Fleet up.
And again, where actually I don't at this point I don't actually even know what question we necessarily are up to.
Actually, given that there's literally no reaction to it in the YouTube chat or in the... I don't see anything about it in the YouTube chat.
What are we talking about?
I asked a question designed specifically to confuse and rile Fleet up, and I think you all missed it.
Possibly.
Apologies for being slightly later than I'd intended. We got wrapped up in a little doggo emergency. Poor girl was sick, bless her. I think Age is finally catching
Trying
up
to
with
figure
her.
out which question you're necessarily.
So we have.
It's
we have
YouTube.
the panel-
I've got it.
Yeah, so it was that one.
If the Royal Australian Navy going into the
That one-
1920s
yeah, that's
had...
the one we were actually just
Oh,
discussing.
okay, fair enough. Carry on then. Don't let me stop you.
Well, no, we basically just finished it.
Okay.
Mod.
Discord
Mechanics of
asked,
a more modern ship.
how effective would Bombardino Crocodilo be in World War II? Anybody? Anyone at all know what that is? Anyone at all know what that is?
Have
I
you
mean,
tried Googling
Borodino makes me think Russian.
It's
Crocodile makes me think.
oh, I found it. It's literally a meme of a twin-engined bomber that carries a single bomb on a string. It's literally just brain rot. It's brain rot of a bomber with a crocodile for a face that carries a single bomb on a string under it.
Cool.
It just... It would be abysmal and terrible and really, really bad in literally every way, because it can't even be flown because the crocodile will have no way to control the bomber, and it only carries a single bomb on a string, and it has no way to release it, so it's a suicide weapon. In short, terrible and just a really dumb question. So we did that
I like
one.
that. Really dumb question.
Yeah.
Not holding back tonight, are you, Fleet?
For that question, you've literally brought brain rot into ramblings. Please go home. Whoever asked that question, don't bring brain rot to ramblings again. I'm not that level of degeneracy just yet. Discord question 12. Opinions on the destroyer tenders, and why did most major navies stop having destroyer tenders with the advent of the missile age? To be fair, the destroyer tender as a concept died during World War II. Because the destroyer outgrew it. Fundamentally.
Honestly, I'd almost even say before World War II.
Before World War II, you still had some smaller destroyers knocking around that you might want to tender for a flotilla. But by the end of World War II, your destroyers are big enough that you don't really need that. Basically. See, occasionally, Fleet gets things right. I am not running hot today. My brain is not functioning at acceptable parameters.
Quick, show him pictures of Hosh.
I am really not running hot today. Right, okay. Okay, let's have a look. Okay. Right.
I'll be right back. I gotta get
Right,
some fluids.
okay. So,
and,
next question is, do you think the Supermarine Scimitar is a better carrier aircraft than the F-3H Demon? I've had a look at their specs, and fundamentally, do you want the honest answer? They're literally They're literally both air arms takes on the same concept. That's literally what they are. They are the same. They are the result of both the Royal Navy and the US Navy procuring a naval jet attack aircraft with a secondary role as a fighter. And it led to aircraft of fairly similar capabilities, which you would kind of expect. There's not really much more to say than that, to be fair. As it comes down to, again... I mean, what do we say all the time, folks? Horses for courses. Question 40. Do you think the US only has one type of large... only having one type of large dual-purpose gun, and the 5-inch 38 is an advantage over the RN in terms of ammunition, parts, and logistics during World War II. Unlike the RN, who has at least 4 different types of dual-purpose gun in service, which complicate manufacturing and logistics. Well, yes. That's just... You kind of answered your own question there. But yes, in terms of ammunition, parts, and logistics, it is an advantage. In those 3 terms, it just is. Having one type of gun across the fleet compared to having 4 types of gun, it is. In that particular aspect, it is. Okay, Dragon, where's Foxo gone?
To the shops. She's been sent by her parents.
Oh.
Also, she was going to make food and then has been sent to go and get stuff.
Oh, but that's unfortunate. Right. So, what if the panel was each in charge of a country during the Cold War? What would each choose and why?
Russia.
Why?
Because strong Russian communist country builds lots of great ships. And to
Okay.
be perfectly honest, I could probably whip them into shape and actually get them to fucking make ships work.
Basically,
for longer
we'll
than 2 minutes.
we'll fix Soviet economy by setting the economy on the economy, and then use it to build ships.
Yes.
So you will stick the Soviet economy on the economy to fix the economy by basically making it not the Soviet economy.
Right.
Fair enough. For me, I am going to pick Cold War. I am going to pick Greece. I want to preserve the Greek monarchy to the present day. And I also want to because the Greeks are doing okay until the whole kerfuffle in the 70s. And then everything goes to toffee in a handbasket. But yeah, we're gonna fix things. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fix things. Dragon?
Japan could be interesting.
I mean, we're literally just picking what for the Cold War. We're literally just picking Cold War Iron Curtain starting nations at this point.
Yeah, but I never get to play Japan in those.
It's true.
Because nearly every time I try and do,
Moe
a few times I do,
Moe
look at them,
Neums
someone's
in.
already taken them.
Yeah. Well, there you are. That's the and Ruinon, if she's here. I don't know if she's here. I'm asking if she's here because she's.
I stepped away.
Drydock question 15. Discord question 15. What is your opinion on the Alvis Stalwart? Do you think it's a much better amphibious vehicle than the LVT-7 in the 1960s and 70s, even though the Stalwart is wheeled? As an amphibious vehicle, the Stalwart is aggressively superior. As an amphibious vehicle, the Stalwart is superior. It can carry more, it can move more. It's faster on land and in the water. However, that's it. If you're trying to take it into, I don't know, an amphibious beach assault, you're gonna want an LVT-7. Because, yeah, one of those things is armored, has a 40mm grenade launcher and a 30 caliber machine gun in a small turret, and the other one is a glorified truck. And I can tell you one thing, Dragon. I can. Which one would you have? The glorified truck or the actual IFV?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love the Stalwart maxing for the win. In Wargame Red Dragon and other bits and bobs, they are great supply trucks because they're like, oh, the troops are cut off behind a river. No problem, boss. Off we go.
That's what I'm having to do. There's plenty of opportunities where I'll take the Stalwart.
Oh yeah, no, I was speaking in terms of an opposed beach landing. In that particular case, you'd want the LVT-7. But depending on what else you're doing, yeah, it is very much. If it's a bullets whizzing around your head moment, you want the LVT-7. If it's literally anything else, you'd rather have the Stalwart. Discord asks, why is Junio in Azure Lane saying the commander is her childhood friend when the commander never met her before? That's a dragon question.
Oh, I can, just because I see that it's a we don't know what the hell you're talking about, I can provide the context for the combat wheelchair question.
I've gone past it. Don't want to go back.
Yeah, but you didn't answer.
I did, but look. Alright, give me the context and I'll very quickly answer it.
No, keep moving. Keep moving on what you're doing. We can get to that at the end.
Dragon, are you there?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. Honestly, I am not sure.
Ah, bugger.
Like, when was she?
Well, we're back. We're back to square one. Bugger.
As for why she says that, it could become.
Typical fleet. Back to square one. Well, what else is new?
I know it was back then. How could you?
We swear one. You're doing good.
Well, it could, by the sounds of it. Yeah, it could be referring to the fact that one of the versions of Azure Lane is a recreation of the historical timeline. It's why, after all the fightings in the Aleutians, Santa Cruz, Marianas, I got to see you again, so it could be referring to that.
Yeah, it's a whole...
There's probably a reference here somewhere to something, but... Or she could be completely delusional. This has happened before, and it will happen again.
Good lord, lots of people are following me on the Twitters. My influence grows. Excellent.
On the old twits.
Yes.
He's becoming a twit.
I was about to say, rarely do me and Dragon agree, but what's this becoming shit? I mean, I already was.
I mean, I thought twit was an insult, but okay.
It is.
Yeah, that's the joke. I kind of already am there at times. Discord question 17. Thoughts on the M47 pattern? Do you think it's a stopgap tank or a sandwich generation tank between the battle-tested M46 and M48? Yes. Yes, that was the whole point. That was literally the whole point. It was a transitional vehicle between the M46 and the M48. It's the stepping stone between them. It's the move from a tank, and that's an outgrowth fundamentally of the M26, to the more mature patterns of the M47, M48. Discord question 18. If you're one of the division commanders in the 1970s Soviet Army, would you rather have the GTMU or the MTLB as your tracked APC? Neither, because I wouldn't have a tracked APC. I'd have wheeled APCs. That's the Red Army has tracked IFVs and wheeled APCs. They abandoned the concept of tracked APCs a while ago. Now, yes, the GTMU and the MTLB can carry troops. You can use them as tracked APCs. But firstly, I want the MTLBs towing my artillery guns. That's their job. What are they doing? Get back. Go and pick up that giant towed howitzer and move it. As for the GTMU, I can use it. It's a little bit more mobile than the MTLB. It's a little bit small, a little bit easier to conceal. If I have to use either of the two, I would use the GTMU. YouTube, if the Mill Mi-24 Hind from 1976 onwards adopted the Fenestron tail rotor like the Europeans did... Well, whoa, hold on just a minute. The Fenestron tail rotor was not adopted wholesale by Europe. There are still European helicopters that do not have a Fenestron tail.
The hell is this thing? What is this? Who is it? What
But
is it?
assuming that they did... well, first of all, I would question what idiot allowed a Hind to have a Fenestron tail rotor, first of all. Because if you look at any attack helicopter in Europe today, and I don't think I'm wrong on this, but yeah, if you look at any attack helicopter operated today, none of them have a Fenestron tail rotor. The Tiger doesn't. So the Eurocopter Tiger doesn't, which is obviously the Europe's attack helicopter.
The Apache doesn't.
Yep. The South African domestic one doesn't, I think, either. And it's basically down to the fundamental vulnerabilities of that design. It's great for mostly civilian or light utility helicopters, and ones that require a lot of fine control, as in aggressively fine control. But if you're an attack helicopter, you might, get shot at. And you might want something that's a little bit more survivable than a Fenestron. A Fenestron's more vulnerable to incoming fire. And also, the Russians did drop Fenestron on their helicopters. They're phasing it into service now. The Ka-60 has a Fenestron.
YouTube Minecraft Watcher, we are working our way through it. Right now, we are working on a YouTube question. Next question will be a Discord question. Alternate ad nauseum until we are done. We shall rip and tear until we are done.
And there will not be any time. There will not be any time for new questions.
There never is on Fridays. We don't have it in the budget for Fridays.
Very rarely do, especially with the backlog that we've got now.
It's just not in the budget, mate. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, the fact you've picked that up from...
Listen, Clark has the Blackburn. You have budget.
Discord question. Design a 10,000 ton heavy cruiser. Any nation, no budget. Well, that kind of defeats the question before we even start. Because if you don't give me... If you don't give me
Sorry, Lee, go ahead.
If you don't give me a nation, I don't know what guns and armor I have available. If you don't give me a time, I don't know what era it's in and what I'm building to counter or fight. And if you don't give me a budget, I don't know exactly what I can fit into the cruiser and what compromises I've got to make. Unfortunately, the question as asked is unanswerable. I have no steers to guide me.
Really, the biggest thing is when, because a heavy cruiser that I'm going to build in 1912 is going to be radically different than a heavy cruiser I'm going to build in 1935.
Okay. YouTube asks, would the 42cm howitzer still be practical and useful against tank spearheads to break them apart? I mean, a big explosive shell is a big explosive shell, but the 42cm howitzers are siege weapons. They're employed against fixed fortifications, because even the mobile ones, like the Big Berthas, mobile is a relative term. It cut the build time for the 42cm howitzers that the Germans had from 3 days to 12 hours to deploy from moving. Yeah, so you don't really want that in an environment where it's going to have the potential to be captured. You want a static
it this way.
frontage and an in-place position.
Let me put it this way: it would be useful because it would obliterate any tank it hit.
Although
It would not-
they're arcing weapons, you can't really use them in a direct fire roll. They're not set up for it.
Yes. I'm saying it's useful in the sense of, well, there's no tank there anymore. But it would not be a practical weapon for that purpose. Gunnery officer, I presume, because it's a Discord question and it's numbered. Opinions on the Soviets starting to utilize the MiG-25 as other roles like ground attack or a...
Hey, just a minute. Who's running this show? Me or you? Carry on. Sorry, I had to make the joke.
Look at
Carry
me.
on.
Look at me. I am the captain now.
Oh, fuck off.
Look at me.
Uh,
Look at me. I am the captain now.
No.
as other roles like ground attack or air defense suppression, siege roles. Do you think its high speed makes it useful for these roles?
Yes, there's a reason why once the MiG-31 came in, the Soviets started looking for other use cases for MiG-25. It was useful as a reconnaissance aircraft, a fast bomber. Because the thing is that MiG-25, if you bomb it up, can carry a very large load for an aircraft of its size. Like you can, yes, I'm coming over at Mach 3. I have released 10 to 12 500-kilogram bombs. Have fun down there, guys.
I'll be back.
Yeah, the MiG-25 is a maintenance hog, but when it's flying, it's a very good aircraft as a non-maneuverable asset, if that makes sense. Is in an asset you expect to go fast, do things, but not get into, close action with enemy assets.
Is the MiG-25 the one that's capable of taking the Kinzhal air-launched ballistic
No,
missile?
that's the successor, 31.
31, okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
MiG-25 was the Trailblazer, 31's the mature platform.
Gotcha.
Now, 25 was produced in numbers, both platforms were, but 31 was very much a refinement of the 25. Which meant the aircraft was much larger, but it was very much a refinement of 25.
Yeah, 31's giving me PTSD of deployment.
Why, did they bother you?
We'll leave it as that. Let's just say Ivan decided he wanted to test a new weapon system.
Are you sure that wasn't a Tu-22?
No, that was definitely a Foxbat with a Kinzhal.
Hey,
Twice. On my watch.
good lord. If the
Away me!
If the Royal Canadian Navy bought an Emerald-class light cruiser built in HMS Enterprise's design, where will she be deployed? Wherever the Royal Canadian Navy wants a light cruiser to be. That's hard to say. It's going to depend on operational requirements. Most likely, it's going to be in the Atlantic, though, based out of Eastern Canada. Next question. Opinion on the FV-433 Abbott. Do you think it's the best light SPG of its time? How does it compare to other light SPGs like the M108 and the 2S1? Arguably, I do think the Abbott is in contention for the best light SPG of that period. It's definitely better than M108. M108 is a SPG cosplaying as a light SPG. It is the design that led into M109, but it is fundamentally a large vehicle. And I mean that in terms of physicality. It's not like Abbott. It's not like 2S1. It is a large vehicle. And, to be frank, it has a fairly anemic gun. A short, stubby 105. It can only fire 11 kilometers. That is not a long range for a Cold War light SPG. For example, the Abbott has the excellent light gun, which can fire 15 kilometers in its first mark, and in the second mark 17, which is a much more acceptable range bracket for a light SPG. It's also a much smaller, more nippy vehicle.
Breakfast.
Right, moving on. Now what time are we on? Probably going to wrap it up at 8, because I've got a few little bits and bobs I want to do before we start the hoy. So we'll probably... Well, this is a fairly short answer. YouTube, would it have been practical to use the 5.9-inch as a destroyer role, both as dual purpose, AA, and solely anti-ship? No, it's too big. Too big and too
I think
heavy.
we had that on Monday.
Yeah, as the Germans found out, it was too big and too heavy to really be used as a destroyer caliber. Question 1. Do you think the introduction of heavy mortars like the 107 up to the 120mm inside made the light howitzer outdated by the 1980s of hitting close targets, since the howitzer from the 155mm upwards are a common thing for medium range and MLRS platforms are for long range targets? The US started mounting 107mm mortars on the APC since they don't use light SPGs anymore by the 1980s. The thing you've got to bear in mind is that even the best heavy mortar will be outranged by a light howitzer. It's just a fundamental fact of the way mortars work. You are not going to get the same kick and range out of even a... Well, if you are getting the same range out of a heavy mortar, I'm going to start asking you, are you sure that's a mortar? Are you sure that's not a light howitzer cosplaying as a mortar? Because when you get up in caliber and you get up in length and you start breech loading the things, you have to tap the designer on the shoulder and go, are you sure you're not trying to reinvent the light howitzer, mate? So, Fleet, with your Hoy, do you use an older build for your games? No, not at all. We're usually always on the latest version.
Look at Fleet taking questions from chat on a Friday.
Oh, take a conk at yourself, Rowan on. There we go. What Azure Lane body filler will Fleet get from the Yostar office in Tokyo? None, because A, I don't want it, and B, even if I did want it, I can't bring it back with me. I will not have the luggage space.
I think you need to get up with Garius to see how you can nest 15 suitcases inside of each other. And then only bring, like, a change of underwear.
No. Question 22 on Discord. Opinions on the early versions of the Stinger Manpad, the Stinger RMP and Stinger Post. Do you think for the late 80s it's not as good as a Manpad compared to the Mistral, RBS 70 or the Igla? Do you think the British were forced to drop the Stinger in the 80s because of bribes and they should have picked the better Mistral instead? Okay, first things first. The Mistral and the RBS 70 are bloody huge things. They are massive Manpads. They take an arm and a leg to move and they are heavy beasts. Stinger and Igla are much more competitive systems. Very much shoulder-launched weapons. Mistral and RBS 70 are... You have to set up like a deployable like tripod thingy to launch them. Like there's a whole process you gotta go through. And RBS 70 is even worse. Whereas with Igla and Stinger, you just bring him up to your shoulder, wait until you hear that lovely tone, and go, pull trigger. It's a much more flexible system and easier to use and carry. I don't think the British were forced into adopting it through bribes. I don't know the full story on that, but I would find it very surprising if they did. And also, it's a good system for what the British want. Better than blowpipe. Much better than blowpipe.
What about blow hard?
No.
Listen, I haven't packed a cheek pouch full of estrogen yet. Give me a little bit of slack for being off my game.
Right. Well, the Pax Britannica mod does not work with the latest version of Hoy for some reason. Well, that's probably because it's not up to date. I don't know the specifics of the mods that you played, and I don't play every Hoi 4 mod that exists, so I don't know. Last question. We have caught up. Yippee. Why do you think the USAF operated the A7 for a short time just before the A10 was introduced? Do you think the A7 is just a stopgap for the A10 for the USAF? And why did they use the A7 for the F-117 project?
The Corsair 2.
This is very confusing to me. I don't understand. So, why did the USAF operate the A7 for a short period of time before the A10 was introduced? I don't know. If you want the honest answer, I don't know. Do you think the A7 is just a stopgap for the A10 and for the USAF? Possibly. Not sure. Maybe. Could be. I don't know. And why did they use the A7 for the F-111 project? I couldn't tell you. If you want the honest answer.
In particular, the United States Air Force got them for the Air National Guard.
Yeah.
So, not
Really?
the United States Air Force itself?
Yeah, it's the Air National Guard. It's a different beast altogether.
Yeah, it's probably a stopgap or just a. Listen, we need to plug a hole in a subordinate unit's capability. If they use going off just the wiki scan here, it probably had very similar flight characteristics to the F-117 because it looks like it was just scanning the Wikipedia. It looks like it's used as a trainer, broadly speaking.
Yeah. Right. So, thank you very much, everyone, for joining me for Catch-Up Ramblings. Hope you've had a fantastic time. Obviously, we will have Sunday live stream on Twitch, which will be the Shogun continuation. So, I hope everyone enjoys that. And, of course, Brew Ships, as always, on Sunday. No Catch-Up Ramblings next week, and I'm announcing this now so everyone doesn't get in a tizzy, as I will be driving down to Cornwall, and I will be in my hotel in Cornwall with no access to the internet or Catch-Up Ramblings, because I'm not taking my laptop with me. Because I am, I'm not taking it with me.
You could have a surprise waiting for you in Cornwall as well.
Well, apart from... Well, I know the PC is going to be there as well. And there's going to be other people there, but unless there's something else on top of that, then...
It'll be a gift you can't refuse.
Oh, for the love of Mike. I haven't got time for a gift I can't refuse.
Who said you had a choice in the matter?
Right, anyway, thank you everyone for coming. Take care.
I have seen the plans that the Clark clan has laid on for you.
Yeah, well, I can't stay for I can't stay for dinner on Sunday. They all know that.
That's what you think.
No, I can't. I've made it clear. I have to be back up here.
Right, well,
No, nice. I
it's been nice
don't
being
use
with
Pax
you tonight.
Britannia.